Hi, I'm Ellen Gormley and welcome to my channel. We're doing today the Tunisian drop stitch, and this is really fun. This is actually the back side of the fabric. This is actually the front side. This swatch is not blocked, so you can have fun squishing it. But anyway, there's this nice lacy drop stitch row in between rows of Tunisian knit stitch, essentially, is what we're looking at. So when we're making this swatch, this is the side we see, and then when you flip it over, this is the side that you get with the purl bumps, which is the wrong side of the Tunisian knit stitch. Now, what's interesting about this, this stitch is really very fun to make, and you can vary how many rows of Tunisian knit stitch you place in between the drop stitch rows. So here's only two. Well, I think this is at one row, and then there's 3 and 4 rows, and you can choose how many rows of rest you do in between rows of drop stitch. So fun, fun, fun. So hopefully you'll like this. Let's get to it. So you'll need a Tunisian hook, and I have a worsted weight yarn. Just choose a yarn that matches the hook size that you're going to use, and we're going to place a slip knot on the hook. And then we will chain any number of stitches. So it doesn't have to be an even number or an odd number, either one, it doesn't matter. So any random number, you'll have to make a swatch if you're gonna make a project to see how many stitches you're gonna get per inch. This, as you might guess, this swatch like shrinks up a little bit, and because when you block it, then it grows much bigger. So you'll have to swatch if you're gonna make a garment to make sure that you're getting exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so I just have chained a bunch, and I'm going to pull out a few just because I don't want to make that many while we're demoing. So the first row is just a traditional foundation row where I'm pulling up a loop in the back ridge or back bump or back bar of each of the chains all the way across. One loop for one stitch. So if you chain 10, you'll get 10 bars on the hook. So it's not like traditional crochet where you have to like add one for your foundation row, because there's no turning chain on this beginning row. So the number of stitches that you chain is the number of stitches you're gonna get. So hopefully that makes sense for you. So I have already now one loop for each chain all the way across in our forward pass. Also, don't forget, there is a whole Tunisian playlist on my channel. So if you need to go back and learn some of the very, very basics of Tunisian crochet, you can do that at any time. So for the traditional return pass, and then we'll do the same return pass for all the rows that are not the drop stitch row. The drop stitch row will be different, but all the rest rows in between will be this yarn over, pull through one loop on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on the hook, all the way across. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, so this swatch actually had a little bit of the curling problem at the beginning. So I know many of you are concerned with how to make your Tunisian swatches not curl, and I do feel like it curls. See, it curls a little bit. So to combat that, see, it curls down here at the bottom too. So to combat that, instead of doing this swatch, it actually goes this way. The way I did the swatch originally, I did Tunisian knit stitch on the first row, and what you can do to combat that is to do like a Tunisian, I was going to say alternate a row of Tunisian knit stitch and a row of Tunisian purl stitch to help keep that flat. There is a whole video on how to reduce curling in your project, so let's give that a try. So this is not part of the drop stitch, but I'm working on the foundation. So the first row, the pattern traditionally would be a Tunisian knit stitch. So knit stitch would be skip the first vertical bar because you have the first loop already on your hook, and you're gonna stab. So here's the second vertical bar right there. You can see there's a front piece and a back piece. we're going to stab through the middle of that all the way to the back of the fabric for a Tunisian knit stitch and pull up a loop. So Tunisian knit stitch all the way across. We could probably experiment with doing a Tunisian knit stitch in the first row and then a Tunisian purl stitch in the next row to see if that helps fix the curling problem, if the curling problem bothers you. Also, remember, if you're using a natural fiber, an animal fiber, or a plant fiber, then you can block the heck out of it and often make it flatter. And then acrylic is not going to block as easily unless you really kill it with steam and crunch the heck out of it. It'll kind of go back to the way it was when you wash it. So right now we've just did a pull up the first loop of each stitch for the foundation row. We're doing a Tunisian knit stitch row, which ends up being these purl bump rows, because I know that's confusing. So this is the right side of the swatch. And when I Tunisian knit, it looks like a knit stitch. It looks like this. And at the very bottom, it's hard to see because it rolls up, but it looks like the knit stitch. And then when you flip over, then the wrong side of Tunisian knit stitch is Tunisian purl. It's just like in knitting, but if you're not familiar with knitting, then that doesn't really help you much, does it? So to return pass, we're going to yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way across. Then if we're going to play with this and add a different row, on the next row we could add a Tunisian purl row all the way across, but that would mess up the knit look aesthetic down here. That would add a row of purl bumps down here, which may not be so bad, and if it helps reduce the curling and makes you happy, you should do what makes you happy, because it's just yarn, right? Okay, so after we have done a traditional row of setup and we did a Tunisian knit row, then it's time to do the drop stitch row. So the drop stitch row is chain 1, okay, yarn over, and then Tunisian knit stitch in the next stitch. So we are actually increasing stitches here. So yarn over, then Tunisian knit stitch in each stitch all the way across. Yarn over, Tunisian knit stitch. We are drastically increasing. We're increasing 1 stitch with a yarn over for every single stitch. We're going to have twice as many stitches when we're done. And that will help create the yarn over magic that is going to happen when we return pass in the special way for the drop stitch. So we're yarning over and then Tunisian knit stitch in each stitch across. I've got like 3 left, so let's do it again slowly, shall we? So to yarn over, I'm literally bringing the yarn to the front of the hook. I'm yarning the yarn over the hook and then stabbing through the stitch to make the Tunisian knit stitch and pulling up a loop. Yarning over, then stabbing through to the back through that vertical bar set. And then for the final one, we are going to yarn over and grab the 2 vertical bars of that last piece there. Okay, you can count your stitches if you want, but really we have increased every stitch, and look how packed our hook is with stitches now. So this is the fun part. This is where the drop stitch magic happens. So what we're going to do now is chain 2. Now this is different than your traditional return pass. So the drop stitch return pass for this row only is chain 2, 1, 2. Then we are going to pinch this last loop because we want to keep it and hold on to it. I'm going to remove the hook from it and then drop that yarn over and put the loop back on the hook. Got it? We're going to do this a bunch of times across, so I'll show you again. So then we'll yarn over, pull through 2 loops on the hook. When we have yarned over and pulled through 2 loops on the hook, then I will pinch it, holding that loop steady, pull the loop out of that the hook out of that loop, drop the next yarn over, and put the loop back on the hook. When you put the loop back on the hook, then you yarn over and pull through 1, 2 loops on the hook. Okay, here we go again. So pinch it and hold it so that you don't lose it. Drop the next yarn over, put the loop back on the hook, yarn over, pull through 1, 2. Okay, you getting the hang of it here? So pinch it so you don't lose it. Release that next yarn over, put it back on the hook, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops on the hook. So let's focus this time on dropping the yarn over. So I'm going to pinch it and hold on to it, the loop that's on the hook, let it go, and then I'm pulling the hook backward out of this next yarn over. So I am holding on with one hand and then releasing with the other one, putting the loop back on the hook, and then pulling through 2 loops on the hook. Okay, so take your time, go slow. Okay, keep on working it. So remove the hook, drop a loop, put the loop back on, yarn over and pull through 2. Pinch it and hold it, remove the hook, drop a loop, put the loop back on, pull through 2. Pinch, remove, drop, return. Okay, and then when we get to the end of the row, then I will show you what it looks like. So we're pinching and holding, remove the hook, drop the yarn over, put the loop back on, yarn over, pull through 2. Now you know it's the yarn over because it's this one here. Can you see how it's literally just yarned over the hook? That's the one we're dropping. So I'm pinching the loop, then I'm dropping that yarn over, and we're not dropping this one because it's a loop on the hook. Put it back on there, yarn over, pull through 2 loops on the hook. So the yarn over is a little bit more of a diagonal right here, see it? And it's every other stitch because that's what we did. You can't really yarn over twice in a row because then it just gets to be kind of a tangled mess. Okay, pinch and hold, drop that last yarn over, put the loop back on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Then we're gonna hold it and we're gonna spread it out, and you can see these loops pop up. Yay, those are the drop stitches. Nice. So this is the front, and the back is where it looks most like knitting drop stitch. And it does take some practice to get it all worked out, and then you can block it and such. So the next number of rows, however many you want, you can do Tunisian knit stitch all the way across. So you can either do 1 row of that, you can do 2 rows, you can do 3 rows, and the more Tunisian knit stitch rows you do in a row, the more of this section you will have in between your drop stitch row. So it's up to you. So let's go and show you what the Tunisian knit stitch row looks like. So much fun. I really had fun with this one. So I don't know, what do you think you could make with this stitch? Make a really cool bag, make a cool bracelet, make a cool scarf, of course. Everything makes a cool scarf. So for the next row, the Tunisian knit stitch rows, we're skipping the first vertical bar because we have a vertical loop already on our hook that counts as the first one. Then through that really big tall loop, we're going to Tunisian knit stitch and pull up a loop. So in the middle of those tall dropped stitched loops, that's where we are going to Tunisian knit stitch all the way across. So essentially, the height of the dropped stitch is the yarn over plus the next stitch. So that's why that determines how tall the dropped stitch is. So if you use a bigger hook, you're going to get taller dropped stitches. Okay, and Tunisian simple stitch in the final stitch, grabbing the last 2 loops. Okay, so return pass in the traditional way because we just did Tunisian knit stitch, which was yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2 all the way across. So don't forget to like this video for me, subscribe to the channel. There's always fun stuff, giveaways and tutorials and unboxings and all sorts of swatchings or yarn tastings going on, book reviews. Okay, so then you can, and I'm going to make another Tunisian knit stitch row across before I do another drop stitch row. So now it's just looks more traditional, where I'm going to stab through from the front to the back to do the Tunisian knit. If you need me to do it slowly, I'm kind of spreading it out there so you can see, stabbing it in between those two all the way to the back. There is also a Tunisian knit stitch video on my Tunisian playlist, and there is a Tunisian purl stitch video on my Tunisian playlist, so go check those out if you need to. And Tunisian simple stitch in the last stitch. And this is what it looks like so far. And my cats are fighting, so let me, or my cat and my dog, so I'm gonna grab one. No, be good. And come back to you where I can do the return pass as usual with yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 all the way across. And then let's do one more drop stitch row, shall we? Drop stitch row. Okay, so now here we go. So the drop stitch row, again, remember, starts with a chain 1, yarn over, because we needed a little bit of extra height because this drop stitch row is taller than our other Tunisian knit stitch rows. That's why we add the chain 1, to make it taller. Then we yarned over the hook. We're going to leave that yarn over on there and Tunisian knit stitch through the next stitch. Yarn over, Tunisian knit stitch. Yarn over, Tunisian knit stitch. Yarn over, Tunisian knit stitch, all the way across until our hook is double loaded up with stitches. So much fun. I like this stitch. This was really fun to make. Now it's a little bit slower because I go slowly on the drop stitch part to make sure that I don't drop any extra loops that I'm not supposed to drop. But worst case, you just drop the whole row and go back and just start over. So not the end of the world. So there we have the hook double up with lots and lots of loops. And I've got my yarn tangled a little bit, so I'm going to get some slack here so that we can do the drop stitch return pass very conveniently all the way across. Okay, so the drop stitch return pass, remember, is chain 2, 1, chain 1 more, 2, then we will pinch and hold that last loop, drop the hook from it, yarn over, put the loop back on, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops on the hook. So we're pinching, yarn overing, putting that loop back on and pulling through 2, because we don't want to pull through the yarn over. Okay, we don't want to pull through the yarn over. That's why we are abandoning it here, putting it back on the loop, and then pulling through just 2, not 3. I know you want to come along. So undo just 2. There we go. Pinch it and hold it, remove the hook, drop the yarn over, put the loop back on, yarn over and pull through 2. Very tricky business, but you totally can do this. You just need to pay a little bit more attention on this yarn over, this return pass for the drop stitch. But totally doable. This would make a really cute, like, tunic summer top also, I think. So, tricky business, but it is totally doable. I know you can do it. All right, so pinch it, remove the hook, drop the yarn over, put the loop back on, yarn over and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Pinch it, remove it, drop it, loop it, yarn over, pull through 2. Pinch it, drop it, unloop it, put it back on. So what's a good phrase here? I need like a rhyme like we do for knitting, but here we go. So you'll get the hang of it real quickly, and then you'll be good to go. So unhook it, unloop it, put it back on, and pull through 2. Okay, and then you can kind of tug on it and spread it out, and then flip it over and see how it looks. So much fun. So I hope you've enjoyed this drop stitch, Tunisian drop stitch tutorial. And at this point, I'm going to go back and do some Tunisian knit stitch across again. And because it's a swatch, this would be a good time for you to play with the number of Tunisian knit stitches, rows of Tunisian knit stitch across that you're doing, so that you can decide what's the best look for the project that you're creating. But that's the basic tutorials for how to do the Tunisian drop stitch. I hope you stay tuned to the channel for lots of different live streams and unboxings and book reviews and all of that. So much fun. And so we are, because this row is taller, so I'm not Tunisian simple stitching in this bottom one. I'm putting it in the top, like the second one, because it needed a little bit more of a ladder for that row to be taller. Okay, see? So I'm not Tunisian simple stitching in this bottom chain, but the second one. Hopefully that'll help. Okay, then yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way across. And you'll just keep repeating those sequence of Tunisian knit stitch rows, and then the Tunisian drop stitch row when you're ready. Have fun with this, friends. So I'm going to flip it over and show you. And that is the Tunisian drop stitch. Thanks everyone for joining me. I appreciate it, and I will see you next time.